So for me now, it's about controlling my time, making very good monthly predictable cash flow. And it's the predictable part for me that is key. There's certain businesses that are volatile, they're seasonal. I'm not interested in that anymore. I want predictability.
John, welcome to the Director First podcast. We got you down here in the end, and I've had to come down to your backyard to interview you. But I really appreciate you spending some time today to share with our viewers your insights. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
First thing I want to ask you. So you talk about a lot around less tax, more wealth.
Mhm.
What is the number one tax error or tax belief that directors are making in the UK today that's costing them money?
Understanding the corporate structure, keeping things in a corporate structure, whether it be limited companies, holding companies, groups, and controlling your personal tax. You have personal tax, you have corporate tax. A lot of directors have a company and they think that makes them tax efficient, but they're paying themselves too much. And a lot of the time, all they need to do is speak to their accountant to get a better understanding. Tax is deliberately complicated. There's something like 22,000 pages of tax law. All businesses are different. So the key thing any director and shareholder of a company can do is understand the taxable events when they're taking money for themselves
Mm-hmm.
and utilizing the corporate structure as much as possible.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's dive into it. So we talked about two things there. We've got the business tax, corporate tax, and we've got personal tax. So someone's setting up a business and their aim is to obviously make money, and you talk a lot about providing a good life for your family,
Mhm.
exactly the same as me, right? Where do they start? If someone picks the phone up to you and goes, John, and I know you're a bit more selective about who your clients are nowadays, but where would you start with somebody? John, I've seen you all over social media. I'd like you to be my accountant.
Sure.
Where does that conversation start?
We want to start at the end. So we reverse engineer what somebody is trying to achieve. We're big on making money in a business, which is phase one, scaling it up to the level where that person is happy. Some people want 50,000 a year, 100,000. Some people are trying to build massive empires. It's a completely different journey. And then from there, we look at, do they want to invest that cash into cash flowing assets, essentially? And there's lots out there. It's a different journey for everybody. So we speak to somebody, we work out if we're a good fit because it's a service-based business and you want to get on with whoever you're working with. That's
Hmm.
the foundation. And we get on with pretty much everybody because tax is complicated. They just want to listen most of the time. We reverse engineer what they're trying to do. The key thing is to keep it as simple as possible, keep your costs down, and complicate things if it's needed. So most people just need to move their income from being paid personally to a limited company. That's the first level of freedom because then you have the ability to pay yourself a tax efficient salary.
Hmm.
Then you can have the option to, and it's all about flexibility and option, pay yourself a dividend if you want to, if it makes sense, if you need to qualify for a mortgage. Sometimes people pay themselves minimally, sometimes you have to pay yourself a lot. It's the flexibility that gives you the freedom. If you have a job, and don't get me wrong, business is not for everybody. It's not easy. It's going to take a lot of attempts. But this is the service we provide. We try to speed that up for people. If you have a job, a PAYE job, your tax is taken at source, you're given the net amount. It's tough. You've got no control. Your personal tax year is April to April. Just by moving that over to a limited company that you have control of, and then the option to pay yourself tax efficiently, that's phase one. From there, we would then look at the ambitions. If they want to invest in property, do they need a group? Do they have other trading businesses? Do they have family members who don't have an income? Do they have business partners? Are they getting investment? There's a myriad of things we look at, but we always want to keep it as simple as possible. And for 90% of people, simplicity is key because it gives them the quickest way to save tax and control. Control is if you have control of your time and your finances, you have less stress.
Hmm.
Essentially, I feel like my service to people is to reduce the stress.
Hmm.
That's the goal.
So me and you have had a few conversations, uh, you know, offline, and I remember talking to you once, and I think we were going on about what we want with our lives, and I think I shared with you. I said, John, I don't want the I don't want the empire. You know what I mean? I don't want the stress. I've lost all my hair. Like what I want is I want a good business that's profitable where I can still drop my kids off at school and I'm not coming home stressed at the end of the day. And you sort of said the same things to me. You've just had your little lad, he's 9 months old. What does the outcome, for you personally, what's the goal? What are you looking to achieve?
Okay, so with business, there's two routes, in my opinion. Either you're building a saleable business to let go at a certain point,
Hmm.
and that means you have to avoid being the key person, or you create a lifestyle business, a great cash flowing business, and you build that around your life. I have different companies. My main source of income is the accountancy and tax. That is a lifestyle business. I really enjoy it. I enjoy working with people. I enjoy speaking to every different type of person you can imagine. But we all have a very similar goal, and it's to control our time, freedom. And when family comes along, and this is a new thing for me,
Hmm.
it changes everything. And that becomes the center of your gravity. So for me now, it's about controlling my time, making very good monthly predictable cash flow. And it's the predictable part for me that is key. There's certain businesses that are volatile, they're seasonal. I'm not interested in that anymore.
Hmm.
I want predictability. And then I take that cash. I don't live a very flashy life, but I live the life I want to live. And then I take the excess cash and I put it in cash flowing, appreciating, safe assets tax efficiently. That's what I do. That's what a lot of the people we work with want as well. And I think that's why it resonates because I'm not trying to build £100 million empire.
Hmm.
I'm doing things that are realistic for most people within a 3 to 5 year time span.
Tell us a typical day. What I mean, aside from today where you've been stressed out your head trying to get into London
Yeah.
for 9:45, what is a typical day in the life of John Noble?
A typical day, it's very cyclical, it's very repetitive. I think, in fact, I know boring businesses and boring routine is where the progress is made.
Hmm.
I do the same thing every day. I wake up early. I have the same mushroom and coffee. I have the same salts. I sit down. I wake up. I sit at my desk pretty much within 20 minutes. I get started. Before 9 o'clock, I want emails triaged, everything handed to the team, everything's evaluated. Because we're a service based business, it runs 9 to 5 for the clients. So I want those 2, 3 hours before the day starts to have peace, serenity, know where everything is. Then the client part starts. And then I don't stop either. Like I'm working until I work from yesterday. I was up at 6:30. I was working from 7 until 10:30. Doesn't feel like work because I have a very clear vision of what I'm doing. I also know this doesn't last forever. This kind of energy that I'm putting into it. I've got a very clear goal because of Arthur, my new son. He needs a garden soon. I know what the next 18 to 24 months look like with income, purchases, where we're moving to, and then I'll reevaluate after that. But for the next 2 years,
Hmm.
I'm all in.
What mushroom coffee do you have in the morning?
Oh, lion's mane.
Is it? Have you tried the Four Sigmatic one?
I get the organic ground one from Amazon, and I get I forget what it's called, the coffee spinner, and I just put it in black. I have about 20 coffees a day.
Okay.
It is rocket fuel for my head. It is the best nootropic.
Yeah. I used to get the Four Sigmatic one. I mean,
Yeah,
I've tried all sorts, me. So like Alpha Brain that Joe Rogan used to popularize. What I've tried recently is for the past few years, I do methylene blue.
I take that daily.
Yeah, so like pipette of methylene blue in water. I haven't had a coffee for 6 weeks on Monday. I literally have stopped coffee. I'm drinking a hell of a lot of tea, but I tell you what it was for me, right? So in the week, I am like when I'm at work, I work. I'm not there to make friends. I'm
Hmm.
there to get shit done,
Yeah,
and coffee helps fuel that. But what I was finding is on a Saturday morning, and like I've got loads of kids. I've got 4 little children, and I'd be thinking, I'm really jittery. I can't settle. I can't sit still. And I thought to myself, do you think it might be something to do with the three triple espressos that you've smashed before 10 o'clock. And I just thought, that can't be. I mean, I've got to be careful with stuff that changes the way I feel.
Hmm.
And I went, you know what? I'm going to stop. And I must say, I feel better for it. I feel a little bit more centered. I feel a little bit more not as crazy in the head. But because I know we've spoken in the past, like obviously health's an important thing to you as well, isn't it? What are you doing daily to sort of get yourself in that optimum state so you can go out and do be the best version of you?
Yeah. So the reality for me, I'm very polarized. I'm very energetic. I have peaks and troughs. So currently, I am eating minimal, high protein, not drinking, going to the gym, methylene blue. I will get to a point where that stops, and then I'll have a few whiskeys in the evening, and I'll journal and I'll write, and it changes the way I think. So I ebb and flow between those two states, and it's usually a 6 week period. So I know for the next 6 weeks, I know what my diary looks like. It's very busy. There's no space for any error. There's no, I can't be hungover. I can't, it's weekends are involved. That calms down towards Christmas. So I use that time to recharge and replan what I'm doing.
And have a few whiskeys.
I love whiskey.
Yeah.
I love it. But I also, it's not something that I have all the time because then I don't enjoy it as much. Same with fasting. I really love fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much as you. I've not done those extended periods, but it gives me energy. And when I do something like this, I don't eat. I'm focused. I'm centered. When I eat, it makes me very lethargic.
Mm,
But yeah, health is really important. Business is all consuming when you own the thing.
mm,
You don't turn off. I dream about my to do list. I used to think this was just me. I used to think it was an issue. I've since spoken to hundreds of entrepreneurs, and it's a very common theme. And some people don't like it. I've accepted that this is the way I am. I think I drive my partner insane sometimes.
mhm,
I'm wired in a very certain way, but I have to be doing something. My idea of happiness is small daily progress, but I cannot define progress, so it never ends. And it's a bit of a curse, but it also makes me happy most of the time.
mm. So I mean, how old are you, John?
I'm 33.
You're 33, so I've got 10 years on you. I'm 43. And like never switching off, like always being on. I thought there was something wrong with me. Like literally, it's like because I see not everyone my pals, I don't. I mean, some of them actually do own businesses, but it doesn't consume them like it consumes me.
Mm,
And like as I've got older, it's become more of a problem for me. Like genuinely, it's like sometimes I think, fucking hell, when will this shut up? When will this shut up? But I've sort of accepted, like you said, listen, if I want the things in life, and it's not so much me anymore, you know what I mean? I can't buy any more Stone Island jackets. I cannot get any more pairs of Adidas trainers, right?
yeah.
Like literally, there's nothing you can buy me. It's for me kids.
Mm,
It's like I want my kids to have a nice life, and not a crate. I just want them to be safe and secure because that's something I never had. Like financial security was something that we just didn't have. But as I've got older, I've sort of accepted that maybe this is just the way it is. But for me, it's a problem. Like it creates a bit of anxiety sometimes. I've
mm,
got one of the heads that you know, I think it'll all end. Like I have that fear, and I've had it all my life. And actually, things have just got better and better. The reality is you know, things have got better, but I've got that underlying. But what if? But what if? What's your take on that type of thing? Do you have any worries, any
yeah,
anxieties,
absolutely.
any deep rooted
I am
stuff?
very so that what you're talking about, I have it, and this is what knowing that other people have that makes me feel okay. That is the catalyst to why I do what I do. And this is why it's really important to only speak to people who are doing things you want to do that are at a further level, potentially in a different field.
Hmm.
But unless they are on a similar journey, or they've been through that process, or they've been close to burnout 5 times, or they've burnt out and they've had to come back and they've had, you can't speak to anybody about that unless they've gone through it.
Mm,
They do not understand it.
mm,
It's impossible. It's like speaking a different language. So I'm very guarded with who I speak to. social media is an interesting thing because we were speaking about this beforehand. You're speaking to thousands of people, but really you're just by yourself with your journal and it's quite peaceful.
Mm,
I like that because I can speak about myself, how I feel, the business, and you can see that it resonates with other people because they interact with you. I've accepted I will never change. Everybody's idea of happy and peace is very different. If I am, I will never be stagnant. And the fact that I've used the word stagnant is just a good indication of like my brain doesn't stop. Some people are happy with everything. Life's going great, perfect. That stresses me out if things stop. But these are self-diagnosed definitions of what has stopped. You're still living. You wake up, you're healthy, you have a child, you have a home, you have a business, you employ people. Like on paper, it looks amazing. So
mhm,
it's really hard to talk to people because they think, "Oh, you've got everything." But I'm very anxious all the time because I feel like I need to do more. If I have an email that's not been responded to, and everything's cleared daily, if say something happens and I'm doing a podcast and I'm not at home and there's not an email that's been responded to for 36 hours, it grates on me
mm.
and it pisses me off. And I become really bad to be around. And I say to people, why is that not done? That's not good. That's not, I will never find serenity there. But also, it allows me to build the businesses and grow things. And ultimately, business, this is how I see it. It's really, really high highs and really, really low lows. There's no middle ground for me, there's no coasting.
Mm.
I'm ecstatic that I've done something and I'm over the moon and I'm driving in the car and I'm shouting, saying, yeah, you're the man. Or I'm driving in thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh, that client's left. Oh, this has happened. Oh my God. Like it's just doom and worry or elation.
Mm.
And
I
is
get
that
it.
healthy? I don't know if it's healthy. Will I change? No, that's who I am.
Do you ever think though, and because this does cross my, I mean, I've actually come down to, I've had a couple of days of low, feeling a bit low, like, and on the fact, mate, listen, my business is, I am so blessed to have what I have today. You know, I've got loads of people who want to work with me. You know, we're extremely profitable. I get to come down to London to have great conversations. I'm healthy, my kids are healthy, and I've had just 2 days where I've just felt a bit down, and I can't, and that's hard to talk to someone about,
Mm,
right? I get like people can feel down who have got, I don't know, they don't know how they're going to pay the bills this month, right? I haven't got that problem, but just every now and again, from out of nowhere, it'll be like, fucking hell, that's
mm,
back again.
yeah,
And then you've got to think to yourself, like, if you'd have told me at 21, my life would be like it is now at 43, you know, I have assets, I have very little, I'm really financially independent and stable, I'm in good shape. I'd be like, which arm would you like to take?
yeah.
I'll give it you. But then when you start to achieve that and you still have those periods where you feel a bit down, you think, fucking hell, man. And it's like, it's not always about that stuff, is it? For me, it's like trying to find that inner peace because I know money don't fix it. I know trainers don't fix. I have tried to buy trainers to fix whatever's going on inside of me, and it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah.
Do you ever? What do you think about that? I mean, what's your? Because sometimes if we're chasing that, if we're chasing that next, sorry, I'm going on a bit here. It's like I'll do something good in business.
Mm,
I remember when I remember thinking when I earn 500 quid a week, things will be sweet.
yep.
Yeah. When I have my first buy to let, things will be good.
Uh-huh.
When I have 10 buy to lets, things will be good.
I'll
When
be happy when.
exactly, yeah. And you get it, and you're like, when I get those Adidas Manchesters, that'll be it. And you're just like, fucking hell.
In the cupboard. Next job. Let's go.
Next. Do you suffer with that?
If I could
More.
give somebody advice, two things I wish I had done differently. I would force myself to celebrate. I don't celebrate things. I set goals. I get there somehow. The time horizon's always a little bit off, always. and then I create the next thing and I carry on in the same day. There's two things I set out to do this year. One of them, the goal is by the end of the year we're on track to hit it. I didn't even tell anybody about this. I just wrote it on my calendar, and then I looked at it 9 months later and I thought, okay, we're on track to hit that. I know on the day that that happens, even though I'm trying to give this advice, I will sit down with my journal. I'll say, what's next? Rather than turning everything off and celebrating. I don't know how to celebrate. And I think this is an issue for entrepreneurs because if you're not celebrating, it just becomes work. Everything I speak about, the things I want to help people with, the financial freedom, the becoming tax efficient, incorporating your families into the company, I've done all that,
Hmm.
which is why I'm effective with letting people know what to do. But it hasn't changed anything. And delayed gratification, I think that, and I say think because I don't know, because I've never really done anything to really spoil myself. If I have cash in the bank, I think, what should I invest that in to get a return on? And then I'll put it back into the system and then it works. And then a few years later, you do the same thing. I've never really purchased something crazy. Like I
Hmm.
drive an okay car, it's a nice car. It's 7 years old. I bought it at the bottom of the depreciation curve. Like that's how my brain's work. And I've never thought, see that Porsche 911? That's a ridiculous spend. Would that reset me? Possibly. So I buy it and I think, oh my God, now I need to get back to work, but I'm happy because at least I've tasted, I've never tasted that side of things.
Hmm.
Maybe that is the key to reset. I don't know. But one day, hopefully, I will just sit down and just do something that is lavish and just for me, not for anybody else, not for social media, not for the family, just something that I want because I've sacrificed to do the things I'm doing.
So it's interesting, like there's got to be a balance, haven't there? I mean, I've had like mates of mine that, if there's a big, like, they bought the big house early doors, and it blows my mind. I mean, said it before, like I'm from Preston, and like you can buy a street of terrace houses for what it costs to buy a house in London, But like I've always kept my expenses relatively low. Um, I do have a couple of nice things, but I don't have the big house in the country. Although I thought about it, because I don't want the pressure.
Mm,
I don't work, well under pressure, and like even like the big car or the mega expensive holidays. I mean, first of all, like for me, you have to live on under £100,000 a year, you and your partner,
hmm
which you can fucking pretty comfortably in Preston, right? But like I look at other people and I think, wow, well that's like their fourth trip to Dubai this year, and they've got four kids and they're all in private school, and I just think to myself like, I don't want that yet. Like I quite like I like the ability to know I'm going to pay my bills this month. So like, how much pressure do you like putting yourself under when it comes to finances?
None. I don't have pressure because I wake up. So this is how ridiculous my days are. I have a yogurt.
You
This is it.
crazy
This
bastard.
is it. I have a
Do you
yogurt,
put
fat
honey in
free.
it?
I do put honey in it and cinnamon. It's £1.50. I get 3 trays of eggs from the farm close to where I live, and then I have an omelette. So when where and really weirdly, being healthy is cheap. Usually there's a cost for things. If something's good for you, there's a cost. I have my yogurt and then I have my eggs. I live very frugally, very frugally. So food, and when I go on holiday, I use that as a reset, but we're always working on holiday and we don't go to really expensive places. We like to arbitrage the cost. So we go to really cheap places and we book an Airbnb and it's less expensive. It looks very flashy on Insta, but it's not that expensive. I don't want any financial pressure. So the cash flow from my businesses covers everything comfortably 5 times over.
Hmm.
I hate monthly outgoings. I own my car in cash and it's in my personal name because it's a diesel. Of course, we're not talking about businesses here. It makes sense to have electric vehicles leased on your on your business to reduce tax. I'm talking about personally. My mortgage is minimal where I live. I invest everything into cash flowing assets. All I care about is cash flow because I don't want any financial stress. Nothing. I wouldn't, and I've not been under since I've had a successful business, and I've had failed businesses, and I've done other things in the past. Since I've had a successful, stable cash flow monthly, I've made sure that I've never worried about those things. Because if I was worrying about those things, I wouldn't be able to focus on actually what. There's always a worry, the worry of the business, and growing it, and making sure it's refined, and making sure everybody's happy, and you're paying people. You're putting food on the table for other people, so you can't be selfless and or you can't be selfish and reckless because it's not just about you anymore. I want zero financial stress. I want my financial stresses to be investments. And if that investment goes bad, there's a plan B and a plan C. In the same way that if somebody's looking to buy a property to flip, if that doesn't work, make sure that if you rent it, it covers your finance costs.
Hmm.
And then if that doesn't work, you've got a plan A, B, C. The goal is financial freedom, not to buy £100,000 watches. It's to make sure that you don't have to worry about those day to day costs that everybody has.
I mean, me and Henry, who's doing the editing here, we were talking about watches before we come on the show. I mean, certain watches are a decent asset, aren't they?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
if you know what you're doing with watches.
Mhm.
When I say £100,000 watch, if it's going up in value, great. Put it in the cupboard. Have 10 of those.
Yeah.
That's an asset. I like property. I don't know much about watches. I bought one nice watch. I got very lucky. I was on the list at Rolex for like 2 years, and then they discontinued it.
What did you get?
It's a 41 millimeter Oyster Perpetual. I don't even know the name. Date just Oyster Perpetual diamond bezel.
Okay.
That's a mouthful, isn't it? I think I've worn it 9 times. I don't wear it in London.
Don't wear it in London. Yeah,
London is
I'm
not
like that
safe.
in London, mate. Yeah.
I have it when I film. I don't really feel comfortable wearing it, to be honest. And I've knocked it on things, and it's probably depreciated because it would need to be repaired. Because that's not my thing. I don't like crypto because I can panic sell. I don't like the stock market for a similar thing. It's just money on a screen. I like property. It's a physical, tangible asset. There's going to be a need for it forever. You cannot panic sell it. As an investor, you always go through these periods of, "Ah, I want out. Give me my
Mhm.
money back. I'll live a good life." Can't do that with property because it takes months to actually release a property. And
Mhm.
after a day or two, you're back. Your equilibrium is back. But what I mean is, base costs in life. Everybody has them. The more children you have, the more things you like, the essential things in life, everybody has. You can choose not to live above your means. So
Mhm.
that is the key thing for financial freedom, regardless of if you have a business or if you have a job or who's involved. Live below your means, and then you gives you the breathing space to plan to do other things. Starting a business is risky. The chance of you succeeding, the odds are against you. You probably have to do two, three, or four businesses to take those lessons to get to the one business where you're good for life.
Can we dive into that for a minute?
Yes.
Tell me about some of the John Noble failures.
Okay. I cannot cook. I hate cooking. I started a food truck company with chicken, which is very dangerous. That we took out lots of personal debt. This is before I was reading books and I was worldly. Took out personal debt, made no money. It was stupid. That was literally learning by doing, which isn't very effective. You can speak to people and learn from other people's mistakes. I since learned this was decades ago. I had a dog walking company. That was one of the first things. I think I just came out of university, and in my head, I thought, don't really want a job. I find it hard being told what to do. There's 100 dogs around where I live. If I can just get 100 people to sign up and I employ 3 or 4 people, I could just sit at home. It doesn't work like that. You can't really walk that many dogs. What else? E-commerce. I've had a good run in e-commerce. We've made money, lost money. We still do that today.
Amazon.
Amazon FB. Well, we did everything. So we did.
Okay.
We created our own websites. We had Amazon's. Shopify was big. We made a lot of money drop shipping. But when you make a lot of money in a single month and you don't make money for the next 11 months, it's really hard to plan your life.
Yeah.
It's extremely stressful, and the market's always changing. It's really easy for a competitor to see what you're doing and do the exact same thing, but
Yeah.
they may have more capital, so they can buy an extra 10,000 units, so they get it cheaper.
Hmm.
It's hard to make money in e-commerce. If that is your thing and you do it full time and you've paid your dues and you know how to market those things, you can make a lot of money. It's seasonal. It's hard to be consistent with it, but we still do that today. It's coming up to Q4. Lots of lessons learned there. Lots of lessons.
So in my line of work, right, insolvency, I have supported tons of Amazon sellers. Like what seems to have happened in the last few years is, I don't know if the algorithms changed or Amazon, I don't know. It seems they make it more difficult for people, from what I can gather, the more successful they get. And one of the biggest problems I've seen people make is when we all got locked down in 2020, like it went bananas, didn't it?
Hmm.
Online sales, Amazon, people were spending fortunes. And there was an opportunity to ride a wave, so to speak. But once you'd had your bounce back loan or your C-bills, it was pretty hard to get some money. So what these people did is they took really expensive, personally guaranteed loans. And what they didn't do, that they never prepared for a day where sales were just crazy. The economy was bonkers, wasn't it?
Hmm.
And then what's happened is, I think once we got into 23, definitely 24, 25, is like revenues have fell off a cliff for a lot of people. Costs have increased. So that's a perfect storm, and they're left servicing this very expensive debt. There's too much month at the end of the money, and that's when they're picking the phone up. And it's so common with people who've sort of gone the e-commerce route. Even Shopify, PayPal will lend you huge amounts of money when things are good, and I always feel that it's because they've not they've made the decision to take that money with the wrong information in front of them. They've not, if I track it back, these people, I'm saying, what made you make that decision? Where was your cash flow? Where was your projection? I suppose it brings me on to a question I did, because we've not asked any of the questions. I always had a few questions down here, John, and I knew you'd be you just go proper off on a tangent, which is the best. But it's like you've got compliance accounting
Hmm.
and wealth building advisory,
Yeah.
and I think I've picked that up from somewhere you've wrote it online.
Hmm.
So can we just get into the difference, right? Compliance accounting, wealth building advisory. Because what do you call yourself?
I'm a business partner. That's what I am.
Okay.
When it comes to compliance, you have statutory deadlines. And if you are not preempting those deadlines and actually having conversations, the data is the data, the accounts are due 9 months later, and the tax is the tax. This is why when we speak to people, we always want to reverse engineer what they're doing. It's as simple as 3 months before your company year end, you can do certain things. You can pay into a pension, you can reinvest into assets, you can evaluate your costs. Can you delay any revenue? Can you expenses? Can you prepay things? There's lots of things you can do to strategically reduce your corporation tax for that year and kick it down the can another 12 months. And that cash flow allows you to build. We're big on property. I know everything there is to do with property tax because I have these conversations 8 or 9 times a day with property investors, residential, HMOs, mixed use, commercial, everything. That's where the tax planning comes in. And because property is less transactions, but very important transactions, that's a key part of the tax planning. And people don't realize the reality of owning an asset base until they do it. I explain to them the reality of actually the real cash flow. It's delayed gratification with property. You've got to put a lot of capital up front. You hold on to the asset. Capital appreciation is guaranteed over time. You don't know if it's in year 2, 5, or 10, but it's guaranteed. You buy for cash flow. That's the tax planning. Refurbishments. There's a difference between revenue and capital. And if you're building a property portfolio and you're doing cosmetic refurbishments, replacing, repairing, damp work, so you buy a rundown property, we're not adding extensions unless you're planning to sell the property. But if you're looking to hold the property long term, You want to make sure that you're adding a little bit of value and creating a loss on your books. That's the tax planning that's really important, because if you get good tax planning from day one, tax can be optional for a very long time.
Okay,
That's key.
let's go down that rabbit hole. I mean, can I ask about prepayments?
Prepayment, sure.
So let's say our year ends December. We made a lot of profit this year.
Mhm.
What could we be prepaying to reduce those?
Well, if you intend to spend money in the next 18 months on investment in the business anyway, bring them forward. If
Mhm.
you have vehicles in your own name and you want to put them on the company, you can lease a vehicle through the company, and you can also choose to pay upfront your initial cost. That's going to reduce your corporation tax. It's all about time. Everything in the tax world is delayed.
Mhm.
Your accounts are 12 months to 12 months, and then you have 9 months to file. Part of me thinks that's deliberate because people see the deadline as 18 months from incorporation. But really, after that 12-month period, whatever happened in that period is locked. So it makes it hard for people to plan if they don't have assistance. And this is for accountancy firm owners. It's not too hard to support your clients with the software out there. We send out emails every 2 weeks with tax tips. A month before your company accounts, we let you know about pensions. 3 months before, so that's 12 months before any potential corporation tax is due, we send you an email with links of things you can do and a link to book a call. It's all about communication.
Mhm. I mean, obviously, we're not going to give any financial advice here,
No,
but
no, no.
hypothetically, what other things could people be looking at? We've talked a lot about property. We've talked a lot about pensions.
Mhm.
What else?
So with property, refurbs are and making sure the properties are up to date are key. Revenue expenses, you get the tax relief immediately.
Hmm.
You want to make sure you're doing it in the tax year. Again, if you have big costs, the thing is, there's no list of expenses for a certain business. Every business does different things, and we're habitual. So if you actually look at your monthly spending personally or in a limited company, it's going to be the same things. Think about if you could bring those forward.
When it comes to property, because I have a bit of property and I've almost, well, I've just stopped buying the last few years. I haven't bought anything, I think, since 2018. Because I've got a bit of a worry about the government.
Mm.
You know, they seem to be anti-landlord. What would you say? I'm genuinely asking you this question because I've Toby. I thought, shall I? Fucking hell, it's hard. I tell you what, the worst thing was. I don't know if I should be saying this on camera, but I had to evict someone, right? But thankfully, I knew them and they wanted evicting,
Yeah.
right? Because they needed to get a council house.
Hmm.
John, it was a nightmare. It
Hmm.
was like, and they wanted to go. It wasn't like a bad eviction. This lady wanted to go. She basically outgrown the house, but she could not get a new property with the council until she was evicted and classed as in distress.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, I have a lot of contacts like yourself, and thankfully, a solicitor really helped me out who I work with. But that could have cost me 15,000 to 20,000 pound. That property on a good year might make me 2,000 pound.
Hmm.
It really scared me. Like, really scared me. Give me some advice around this.
Fear. Let's talk about fear. Regardless of what you're doing, you're going to have fear. If there was no risk, there would also be no reward. The right property in the right place, and it has to be run as a business. So the days of owning one or two properties and making good cash flow from it, and this is simple property, of course, you can have really large properties, but we're talking about buy to lets. The days of having one or two of those, it doesn't work anymore. You've got Section 24, a lot of people own property in their own name. Repairs and maintenance, build costs, labor costs, everything's become a lot more expensive.
Hmm.
It needs to be treated as a business. You want to invest in things that are not illiquid. And I know property is the key illiquid thing, but rather than having a £500,000 property in London that the yield is 3 or 4% and it's got very minimal cash flow, And you buy for cash flow. Because if you have a £1 million portfolio with 2 properties or a £1 million portfolio with 10 properties, you've got £1 million worth of property. When the market moves, it's still going to move by percentages. If anything, one or two properties that are more expensive, like look at the London market at the moment, it's actually going down, and adjusted for inflation, it's going down. So you need to have a very, very clear plan, and you need to know what the numbers actually look like. You should be aiming to have 10 buy-to-lets or 3 HMOs or 2 large commercial properties. Because if you have 10 buy-to-lets and that happens, and it's a numbers game, probability says it will happen eventually if you hold these properties forever,
Hmm.
you want to know that the other properties are bringing in revenue. You want it to be self-sufficient, and you want to be able to know that it's at a critical mass point where you can leave it alone. There will be issues. One year you might have very minimal costs. The next year you may have a £10,000 cost. The next year it might be 4,000. But because we're holding the assets for the long term, all we care about is the average. Does the income from the asset cover any potential costs? Well, with what you're talking about, a single property doesn't. That's why we're in a rush to build it into a business. So if you had 10 of those properties, then it doesn't matter. And yet there's a counter argument saying, well, if you have 10, it could happen to all 10. It won't happen to all 10.
I mean, I have quite a few.
Hmm.
You know, I do have. I've got a reasonable size portfolio, and I just can't help but think, how do I want to say this? I'm on the fence. I'm genuinely looking for some advice here because I hear what you're saying. Property is safe. It grows. It grows. It grows. And I've been buying properties for probably 10 years. But I'll ask you this question. This is a better question. Why should we be adding to our portfolios now in 2025? What are the reasons that we should be buying property if our business can afford it? Then we'll get into like holding companies.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that's worth talking about.
As long as your property is cash flowing from day one. So I've got 3 properties in legals. I'm completing a one tomorrow. That's a cash purchase. Cost me that single property is 64k cash purchase, 24k refurb. With everything in, it's 94k.
Got to be up north.
Yeah, of course. No, you need the
Where
yield.
is it?
That's near the Newcastle region.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is, and the yield is everything. And your yield is essentially your rent per year divided by the cost of the property. That's your gross yield. That's a very good indication of, is it cash flowing? And the only metric you really care about is your return on cash employed.
Hmm.
That is your cash that actually is left in the, and it could be
And you're going to try and
anything.
refinance this and get some cash out.
Absolutely. 6
Yep.
months later, cash purchase, 10 grand cheaper because it's cash and it's quick and there's no chain.
Hmm.
Refurb, purely cosmetic. New kitchen, but the same standard. New bathroom, same standard. New boiler, rewiring, damp work. It's a brand new property. It's a new build in an old building. So you
Hmm.
get the top rent. It's rented. It's got no mortgage. That property will bring in £600 net profit after lettings fees. We've got a good letting agent from day one. The bank will revalue it. We're not adding crazy value, but you've got a brand new property. Your repairs and maintenance will be less. That value of that property will probably come in at 100 grand. Spent 94 on it. Great. You've got a brand new property. It was quick. You've got a loss on the books, super tax efficient. You
Hmm.
get back £75,000 into your bank. This can be repeated forever.
So you leave 20 grand in the deal.
15, 20 grand.
Yeah.
So actually, that property didn't cost 94 grand. It cost 20 grand. It'll pay me forever. Rents go up every single year. If your rents go up by £25 per month and you've got 20 properties, you don't have to add any more properties to make more and more money each year. And the repairs are minimal, and that is your biggest ongoing cost. Nobody's ever cleaned a rental car. When people move into a rental property, hopefully they look after it, but usually it's not their thing. They'll do things with that property they wouldn't do if they owned it. Some people stay for 5 years, some people stay for 6 months, some people never move out. It's a probability game. Every single property needs to cash flow from day one.
Hmm.
Yield is everything. If you're looking to purchase property in the south, London, Kent, Surrey, Essex, it needs to be commercial property. If it's up north, it needs to be residential.
Hmm. So the reason to do it is if it's going to cash flow on day one and we've got time behind our side, you can't go wrong.
Time.
Put your money in, refinance it out, and
If you are purchasing properties with a mortgage, you have no advantage. You're competing with people who need to live in the property. And the thing is, the properties we are purchasing, they're uninhabitable essentially. They're obviously, the banks would say they're habitable, but they've not been touched for 30 years. They've got that old carpet, they've got the wallpaper, got lots of feeling to it. Nobody's moving into these properties. They're very damp. They're being sold usually from old investors who just can't be bothered to actually. There's a lot more regulation in the market that's pushing bad landlords out of the market,
Hmm.
and you have a lot of these older investors who have had their portfolios for 20 or 30 years, and they remember the good old days. I don't. This is the good old day for me. So they're letting go of their portfolios. It's making it harder and harder for the old people to keep up with the regulation. It's a chore for them. That's all we know as the younger investors. And when the landlords are leaving the market, it creates a lot of opportunity for new people coming in.
Now, obviously, people who are watching and listening to this, you're not suggesting to buy the property in the trading company, are you?
Never,
Okay,
never. This is
let's get into it.
one of the
And
key
we're gonna, yeah,
mistakes.
this is gonna be the last thing we talk about because I
Okay,
know it's
sure.
gonna fill up a fair bit of time.
Business is a game of longevity. You need to last. You have a trading business. Your trading business is volatile. You can have the best 5 years ever, and in year six, something goes wrong. And a lot of these things are outside of your control. Of course, some of them are in your control, but some of them, if somebody comes onto your premises, slips over, breaks their back, you have an issue. If you have a trading cash flowing business, you want to segregate the risk by having your assets away from that company. Doesn't always need to be in a really complicated group. You could just have a separate limited company that holds the property.
Hmm.
So when you're building a portfolio of assets, you group them by how they're taxed. So you can have buy-to-lets and HMOs in one. You want your commercial property in a separate because it could opt to VAT. It's taxed differently. If you have a trading business and you have your commercial property, you can just own your commercial property here. Your trading business, it can pay rent to it if it wants. There's pros and cons to all of these things, but you want that separate. So if something happens to your trading company and you have limited liability, a lot of people ask me, should I start a limited company for my business? What are the numbers? And I say, forget the numbers. If it's in your own name, you're personally liable.
Hmm.
Take out debt in your own name, that is with you for life. If you get A lot of people come to us and they've got large HMRC debts. I'm like, okay, so is it personal? Is it As soon as they say it's personal, I think, oh, this was so easy to avoid. You should have just been trading from a limited company.
Hmm.
Initially, your limited company setup is cheap. Yes, you've got some monthly costs with your accountants, but a good accountant saves you money. And if something goes wrong with the business, it's not personally on you. That's the key thing. It's so simple. It's literally that. Please have limited liability if you're taking risk, because if you do not have the ability and you're not comfortable taking risk in business, there's less reward. And if you know you're personally liable, you're not going to be taking that risk.
I mean, I see it day in, day out, John. You know, like people make really fucking bad decisions in business, and sometimes things happen to them, like someone slipping, or what's most common now, someone's not paid them.
Mm.
They've gone into a big job. The big job hasn't paid for whatever reason. They've put their absolute life and soul into it, and the next thing they're picking the phone up to me because they've not paid HMRC. But I want to go. Tell us a bit about holding companies.
A holding company is really, really key because you can have a trading business and it's doing really well and you've got a lot of retained earnings there. If you don't have a holding company, your options to get the money out is pay yourself personally.
Ouch.
Yep, a lot of personal tax there. Or you do a company to company loan. That creates a string between the companies. Even if you own all of the companies and they don't need to be repaid within a certain time, if something happens to your trading business, that is a asset for that
Big
business.
problem.
That
Yeah.
that £500,000 loan, which wasn't £500,000 when you started, you just did £50,000 a year, and you're like, oh, that's okay, I've got 70 grand in the bank. And 10 years later, you've got your property portfolio over here, it's illiquid. The only way to repay that is to actually start selling the properties,
Mhm.
undoes all of your hard work. A holding company owns the shares to your trading business and anything else. So even if you have retained earnings, which is profits that you've paid tax on essentially, if you want to invest that in the stock market, you could have a holding company that owns it
Mhm.
and another SPV, and you could have a corporate investment account rather than doing it in your personal name. Because if you have to pay yourself personally and you're paying 40% circa tax on that, it doesn't matter if you're making 6% a year in the stock market because you've just had to pay 40% personally. You can remove your personal tax liability by removing the person owning the shares. If you own the holding company up here, all profits can funnel to the holding company. If you ever wanted to sell one of the subsidiaries, you don't pay any tax. You can move properties around a group without triggering stamp duty if you own 75% of the shares. It allows you the flexibility. Everything I speak about, I try to do it in the simplest way. And with this, it's reduce your risk at all costs, even if there's an upfront cost. The holding company is the holy grail of controlling your assets, using the corporate structure to keep things within the companies, and then you choose who to pay and when to pay personally, and that is when the tax planning comes in.
John, you've been an absolutely wonderful guest. I have not got through any of the questions I wanted to ask, but I've really, really enjoyed our chat. If people are watching this or listening to this and they want to find out more about John Noble, where can we find out about you?
My name is John Noble, or King Nobes if you follow me on Instagram. If you Google Noble One Accountants, you'll find everything. You'll find the YouTube, the Instagram, the company. Yeah. And if you work with our company, you work directly with me. We're a very bespoke, friendly company. We don't pass you over to just random juniors. Everybody works with me. We do the same service for everybody. Our goal is to give you financial freedom.
So, in the show notes, we'll have all John's details, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very
Thank you
much
for
for having
coming
me.
in, buddy. Top man.